not just from coronavirus during this, but from other a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
When I was sat in history lessons, I was always fascinated by the big moments. I thought about what period of history I'd be living in, what I would tell my grandkids about if they'd asked what it was like when I was younger. Well, this is it. The weeks on weeks on weeks spent inside. I always wondered about how my life would be different from my grandparents'. I watched a news report the other day where the reporter was interviewing a 100-year-old man, and he asked him, "Through the 2 world wars you've lived through, is this scarier?" And the old man replied, "Yes, because we cannot see it."
I've always found technology interesting. Whilst we're all dependent on it, I didn't think we'd become this reliant on it for interaction. I hate to think of what life would have been like if this had happened years ago. No FaceTime, no social media. At the press of a button, we can have the face of a friend in a totally different part of the world in the same room as you. It's incredible, and I'm sure a lifeline for some people, but I don't know that it's normal. Being accessible 24/7, only ever a text away, being on all the time, it does my head in. The pressure to change your life during this is immense. To learn a new language, write a masterpiece, or get the body of your dreams. It's absurd. Joe Wicks is great and all, but it's about as much as I can do to keep myself sane, let alone get a six-pack.
I never thought I'd see the day that whole shelves of the supermarket were bare for weeks. I queued for an hour this morning to get into Sainsbury's. This long, snaking line of people stood out in the sun, waiting to get in the shop, armed with hand gel and carrier bags. It feels like we're in an apocalypse film or something. I smiled to myself at the idea of it all, as I looked out of the line of people and the woman in front of me shot me daggers. Still no toilet roll.
I miss my partner. We've been together for 4.5 years. I think before this we had maybe gone a month without seeing each other. That was the longest. It was certainly before we had the kids. I'm self-isolating from them because my daughter hasn't been very well. Well, she hasn't been well for a long time. She's still receiving treatment, and I don't think she'd come out of it if she caught it. We just can't risk it. I don't think I could live with myself if... So, I'm staying away, keeping them all safe. I have no clue when we'll be able to see each other in person. FaceTime just isn't the same. Screens just aren't the same.
I think lockdown really appeals to my introverted self. Like the ability to take things at my own pace, the lack of pressure from the workplace. It's meant that I've actually been more productive than I ever would have been in the office. I think the way the world has slowed down and taken a breath can't be a bad thing. I like working by myself. I always have. I think while I enjoy the company of others and the idea of having colleagues around to check things with or discuss an idea with, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not a great team player. So this works well.
Just me, my pyjamas and my work, Spotify playlist on, candles, cat. The coffee here isn't quite as good, though.
I just miss the spontaneity of life. Just being able to go and do something because I can. I miss that. It doesn't feel normal having to stand apart. I have to keep reminding myself. 2 meters seems like a big distance when the world isn't designed like that. I mean, you can't cross people on paths without stepping in the road, and public spaces aren't designed for social distancing, like the theatre, or cinema, or restaurants, or the pub. I miss the pub. Pub gardens in the summer. God, what I wouldn't give to just be drinking a cider in the pub right now. I think lockdown has taught us we could live without a lot of things. But the pub is not one of them.
How teachers cope is beyond me. Homeschooling is never ending. The number of worksheets and assignments all supposedly completed during the same time frame of school hours is ludicrous. How do they expect us to be able to carry on like nothing has changed? And how on earth do they expect kids to be able to go back to school when all this ends? You can't make kids social distance. It just isn't in their nature. Have you seen that picture of those kids in a playground in boxes? That's just depression in a picture, isn't it? I don't want my kids to grow up in a world where they are scared to go and play with another child because of this.
I haven't seen my counsellor in 8 weeks now. I went for a walk in the park today, but it was like I was walking around in a bit of a fog. I found that I've been avoiding people more than ever. I think when there was the physical interaction, it was better because I had people to hold me accountable, I guess. Whereas now I can just disappear and nobody notices. My family haven't called in days.
My daughter suggested I try this. She can't come and visit me very often at the moment. There's lots to do in the garden. I repotted the tomatoes this morning. They were getting far too big. And I've moved some logs back into the shed. There are a lot of logs out there, far more than I can manage. Well, my grandson usually comes and chops them up for me, but he can't anymore. When my daughter comes, she has to stand on the drive while I stand in the doorway. She phones me every week asking what I want from the supermarket. Then she goes out and gets it and brings it to my house at 11 a.m. exactly every Thursday. She lives 40 minutes away, so it's not like she's that close by. But I know she's trying her best. When my wife died a few years ago, she used to come and visit twice a week, and we'd go out and do things. We used to go to visit castles quite a bit, or she'd drive to one of the National Trust places. I like it there. There's one with the deer. We used to sit in the park with sandwiches and watch them. But the parks are all shut now. I can't even go into town anymore. I can't go anywhere.
I found out today that 25% of people who have died with COVID have the same health condition I do. My stomach dropped when I read it. I don't know how to feel. How are you supposed to feel when you read that? When they said I was high risk, I just figured that meant I needed to be careful, like everyone else did. But 25%. It just makes me want to never leave the house again, and that scares me to death. The news in general makes me feel empty. Like it's got to the point now where I think it just washes over me. As awful as it sounds, the numbers and statistics just don't even faze me anymore. All those people, and they're just numbers on the daily briefing. Background noise as the next Netflix show loads.
This isn't how my 20s were supposed to go. I graduated last year, got a job, and was hoping to spend some of the money I'd saved up to go travelling this summer. I was thinking maybe Europe, do the typical student travels and go around a few of the hotspots. Venice, Prague, Berlin, Paris, Budapest. But now I'm not even sure if I'll have a job after this, because I'd be the first to go. I've not been there yet, so I'm not even sure they can make me redundant, can they? Everyone's in the same boat that everyone from our year is under threat. None of us thought this would exactly be how our first year out of uni would end up. But then again, I guess I should be thankful I graduated last year. I can't imagine paying for months' worth of tuition that year, learning from home. That's what's happened for so many of my mates who are still studying. No degree showing a final out, no goodbyes, just nothing. Imagine graduating over Zoom. The whole thing's just fucked.
I had to go for a blood test today. Just a routine thing. It was like a ghost town. It makes the whole social distancing thing piss easy when you're the only person around, though. I've been able to get my prescription faster than ever at the moment. It does make me wonder if people are avoiding the doctors when they should be going, or whether the reason the NHS is so overstretched is because of all the idiots clogging up the system with their colds or stubbed toe. I really hope all this makes some sort of change for the NHS. I really do.
I don't really know how I feel today. Flat, I guess is the word. I'm finding it hard not to feel guilty. I know I'm doing all I can, but I feel like I should be doing more. Some of my friends are working in the NHS as midwives or nurses or in administration, keeping everything ticking over, whereas I am sat in my pyjamas. But then I feel guilty for feeling guilty. What do I have to complain about? I just feel so unmotivated to do anything. I work and keep busy to avoid my brain, but now I don't have that. I used to have 2 jobs, usually work 6 days a week, and now I have nothing. Working kept me sane. Everyone always said I was a workaholic, but if I stopped, I don't have anything to keep my mind occupied. There's only so much Netflix you can watch and banana bread you can make, and I swear to God, if I get asked to do another Zoom quiz, I'm going to scream. I miss the routine, the quiet that came with it all. Now my brain is just loud.
I've been doing yoga with my mum every morning of lockdown. I felt really odd today though. I just couldn't get the pose. I tried to tense and get the position right, but I fell out of the pose, which I should have found easy. I wasn't connected to my body or breath at all. It was like I could feel my hands and feet on the floor, but not my arms and legs in between. Just blank space. I feel really out of it.
I went for a walk this afternoon. I don't know why, but there wasn't another single person out. I'm very lucky to live near some countryside. A couple of streets over a stile and I'm in fields. It's been a godsend during this. Usually I see a few runners, some dog walkers or families with little kids out on bikes or scooters. The country lanes are wide, so it's easy to avoid people, but today, nobody. It was like humanity had disappeared and I was the only person left behind. The sky seemed to stretch for miles. The sun still rises and sets in spite of everything. I find that quite comforting.
I'm so sick of all of it. The endless talks and statistics that just mean fuck all. Things are changing constantly, so how are we supposed to know what we can and can't do? They go back and forth, and it's just... The country's being run by idiots. The ineptitude is fucking laughable. Our apparent success. Have they seen the state of our death rate? This isn't a lockdown. There are people out in the streets completely oblivious to social distancing, and we've got these fucking buffoons supposedly running the country. It's no wonder so many people are dead, and the blood's on the government's hands.
I don't really know what I'm hoping to get out of making this video. It's been a strange few months. I sat and wrote this out on my phone before I recorded this because I didn't quite know how to put it into words. In some ways, I feel more connected to the rest of the world than I've ever done before. Like someone pressed a pause button and suddenly everyone remembered how to actually give a shit about each other. People have been making and creating more than ever before, but then I've also never felt more isolated in my life. I feel like I'm surrounded by people, but also invisible. I live by myself, so I don't see anyone else very much. In the supermarkets, everyone's scared of each other. But then when I lean out of the window of my flat and clap with the neighbours I've never seen, let alone spoken to, hearing cheering and pots clanging for miles, pulls on my heart and reminds me that I'm not really alone. There are thousands of people out there, all pulling away from each other, not out of hatred, but because of love, to keep each other safe. So I guess when you ask, how has lockdown impacted you? I could sum it up with the thing I felt most lately. I have hope.